Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be on this familiar spot once again. As you all are aware, the Anguilla United Movement launched the 2015 general election in the village of Island Harbor. That was very critical because I always hope that whatever you do in Anguilla, the revolutionary element must be maintained. And in launching in Island Harbor, we were showing respect for the people of that village who actually started the revolution. It was rather coincidence or a fate of divine providence that the first student the Anguilla United Movement identified when it won 6 of the 7 seats in 1980 that will do Anguilla proud at any university he attended was Lorenzo Webster. It was therefore very gratifying that Lorenzo Webster would sacrifice much of a great medical business he had established in the United States of America to come back to Anguilla so often to perform operations, surgical operations, in his expertise as an ear, nose, and throat specialist. Millions of dollars have been retained in Anguilla because he brought this service home. You all may not know, and you will not know unless you are personally confronted with the issue of having to take a loved one out of Anguilla into North America or Europe for a big operation. And then you will know the phenomenal cost attached to that operation. One of our young men who was brutally wounded in Blowing Point not too long ago had a bill of hundreds of thousands of US dollars for hospitalization in Puerto Rico. That gives you a clue of what it takes to be treated in countries outside of Anguilla. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I say God's hand was working in 2010. And God's hand continues to work in 2014-15. How this could be coincidence that Lorenzo Webster could come in at this critical moment in Anguilla's history when there's so much talk that the members of the Anguilla United Movement are not educated. They are not educated. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Evan Gums gave you the right reasoning and education. That you might have a little academic qualifications, but if you don't have common sense and decency, you are not a good citizen. Any credible representative for a small island like Anguilla, and even for a big country, the United States, must have those two basic qualities: common sense, intelligence, and decency. If you are not decent as a representative, you have the dilemma that we have today with our young people killing each other and maiming each other. You check the records. Up to 2000, when I left government, the court opened session after session with a white flag because there was no cases of crime. No crime to be held at the courts. What happened after? The Calypsonians sang. The Calypsonians sang the sentiments of what was happening in Anguilla. Those boys can go away and leave us here. What's happened? Today, our young people haven't had role models, has drifted into self-destruction. This is what we have come to do. This is what God has sent us to do, to redeem Anguilla. The Anguilla United Movement is not a political party. The Anguilla United Movement is involved in politics, the politics of the country, but it's not a political party. And I want you to know that every colonial people, whether it's Anguilla, Guyana, or South Africa, has only been able to pull itself out of slavery and poverty by a nationalist movement and not political fragmentation. Political parties fight and oppose each other. Political movements unite. That's why the Anguilla United Movement, created in 1979, introduced to the revolutionary leader who joined it in that year. And finally, he ran with that symbol, A.U.M, Anguilla United Movement. Check your history. We won 6 of the 7 seats in 1980. Mr. Ronald Webster, father of the nation, became first chief minister of an A.U.M government. And I, as founder of the A.U.M, became his deputy chief minister. Mischief break us up, and we were put back 30 years. 30 years. Anguilla has been put back because of political mischief. But we are back. We are back. And from now on, it will be forward ever, backward never. We are back. The basis by which the candidates of the Anguilla United Movement have been chosen will give us the strength we need in these trying times. From Island Harbor to West End, Lorenzo became our candidate because of a conviction to help save Anguilla from the way that constituency was leading. We could not allow it to happen. We could not allow money to prostitute our people. We just could not. When I started to run politics in 1976 in Blunt Point, and some people who had lived in St. Martin, had been paid for their votes, came to me and said, Mr. Hughes, what are you giving? I said, let me tell you something. I'm giving me. That's all I have to give. What did Jesus say? He gave himself a sacrifice for his people. And by his grace, mankind was saved by his grace. I gave myself. I said to them, I had never supported the issue of prostitution. Paying people for the vote is encouraging political prostitution. That's, to my mind, is a criminal offense to society. And what was happening in certain parts of this island, with money being used to influence votes, to my mind, is sad. You know why? Millions of black and brown people died all around the world fighting for the right to vote. My good old friend Charlie Gams, who just died, told me many years ago that he could remember when only 42 Anguillans could vote, because you had to be either white, mulatto, or rich, according to the standards of that time. You could not allow to vote. Now, every man jack can vote, but it didn't come automatic. There was a struggle. There was a struggle by which we today can stand up here and address our own people on a majority basis, that you will recognize the sacrifice made by your forefathers, people like David Lloyd and the rest of them, who fought for the right to vote. That right, that universal adult suffrage, was given to us in 1952. At that time, I was a student at the St. Kitts Nevis Grammar School, and I followed many of the struggles in St. Kitts, fighting for the right of black people to vote. How can me, who saw the suffering, of some of the black and brown people in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, died in the United States of America, that our gracious Martin Luther King was assassinated, that even Kennedy, who sympathized with the black people, were assassinated because they were fighting for the right of black people to vote. And that's why today we have a black president of the greatest country on earth, the United States of America. When people are desperate, are so desperate to be elected, what does that tell you, intelligent people? What does that tell you? When somebody is doing all this handout of money, you got to ask the question, where is this money coming from? Who is the real paymaster? The paymaster is in the back. The paymaster in the back. We could not allow this to happen in Anguilla, because that was the instruction of the black people in St. Martin. They went for the money and they lost their island. I could not allow our people to go down that route. So we got to thank, first of all, a good friend of mine, the late Elliot Webster of Island Harbor, brilliant scholar, great man, who never had the opportunity to tertiary education, but helped so many people in Island Harbor, because he was the letter writer there for many years and advisor to so many people. And if I tell you the strange way in which Elliot and myself became friends, this man had open heart surgery and could no longer fish. He said before that, he could only listen to the propaganda coming from the Anna establishment, mainly in the western part of the island, that Hubert Hughes was what I do not know. So he said, he had 1 or 2 little encounters with me in my office, because he wanted to get something done, and everybody told him, not Hubert Hughes, that's a vicious man. And he said, he came to my office and he was so surprised. This is not the man to talk about. So he decided, as an intelligent individual, to investigate. So he took up his phone and he called me. And we had 2 or 3 long telephone calls until one day he said to me, Mr. Hughes, now I know who you are. I wanted to know. I have time on my hands. I wanted to know. From that day onward, he and myself became very close friends. So when I was looking for somebody who could qualify on the basis of being honest and decent and God-fearing and still very wise and sensible, Evans searched. He did not search too far. He came up with a young man by the name of Samuel Webster. Now, I had known Sam Webster for a long time. Sam Webster was one of those stable people in Island Harbor who was always chosen as advisor to several budding politicians. And despite they were belonging to other parties, he would say, listen, the one man that I can support in Anguilla is Hubert Hughes. And that came to me on several occasions. That was the man Samuel. So when I heard that Samuel Webster was lost at sea, I hurtled to Island Harbor. And what a sad day it was. An empty boat was brought ashore, no Sam. I had to go to a funeral that same day at the Blank Point Christian Fellowship Church. And while I was sitting mourning over the loss of Sam, somebody came in my pew and said, Sam has been found. I said, what? Dead or alive? And they said, alive. What a miracle! What a miracle! Sam was found alive. The sharks all around him, and he survived all that. Sam was found alive. And this was something for all of us. We had a big welcome ceremony in Island Harbor, and everybody spoke glowingly about Sam. But from the moment he entered the political arena, he was different. And that's what the opposition can do with you. That's what opposition can do with you. Can make you look ugly, no matter how beautiful you are. Nonetheless, we decided Sam had the necessary ingredients for a membership of the Anguilla United Movement. And so we chose him and stuck to him. He did not win, but he never gave us up, and we never gave him up. And to show you the principles of the Anguilla United Movement, the people of Island Harbor said, listen, we have a challenge. Sam, would you encourage your brother to take your seat? And you know what? There was no problem. Sam was not there for himself. Sam represented the principle expressed by President Kennedy. This is what Kennedy said: ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. That was the principle established by Sam when he willingly surrendered his seat to his doctor brother. Now, isn't it the work of God that we are said not to be educated? The Anguilla United Movement has established itself as the most credible political element in the Caribbean. Let's look at our candidates. Dr. Lorenzo Webster. Isn't he educated? Who in the opposition more educated than him? As I said before, that brilliance was discovered and unearthed by Ronald Webster, Chief Minister, and Hubert Hughes, his deputy, in 1980. He is here today as your man, your representative. And that's why we started in Island Harbor. It's a celebration to Elliot Webster, Ronald Webster, Sam Webster, and Lorenzo Webster. We come down the road. We come down the road. We come down the road to Sandy Hill East End. I remember I was running Anguilla United Movement slate. And when I heard that Jerome was running with another party, I approached him. And I kept on saying to him, listen, I will continue to give you little advice on how to win the next election, because I think you'll make a wonderful representative. Anyhow, what I am saying to you, he was being nurtured as an anno. He knew nothing about front. We didn't have no front. He was being nurtured as an anno. And the former chief minister had said to him, you will be my successor. You will be my successor. And I said to myself, this young man, he became a member of the APPP, and I said, he is a real outstanding young person. And you know what? I campaigned for him. I campaigned for him in 2009, 2010. So was it coincidence that ultimately he became a minister in the A.U.M government? That too was not coincidence. That was the works of God. And nobody can say it was a mistake. God put him there to save Anguilla, because the jumping frog could jump anywhere and everywhere at every time. And Jerome stabilized Anguilla. He stabilized Anguilla. This was said time and time again. And firstly, I chose him as an advisor in my office. And he did a marvelous job. That's the man. And I am prepared to walk my feet off and my tongue loose to make sure he retains that seat he won. I got in trouble a few days ago in the House of Assembly because the morning before we went to the House of Assembly, I heard a speech made by a member of the opposition, Cora Richardson. My cousin, you know, Cora's my cousin. You ask, you'll find out that. But she made a speech that really hurt me, in that she said such things about me. I wonder if it was me she was talking about. But there was a debate going on, so I responded a little to her speech. And the next thing is, even some of the people in the church who playing church Christians, but political Christians, only heard what I said, they didn't hear what she said. Although I said I was responding to her. But anyhow, I was responding to her because I felt that that was injustice to a government that is clean, straightforward, hardworking, and above board. Big decks go to Valley North. When I came in government in 2010, I had made a pledge that I will leave government provided I get rid of the old guard. And the old guard was virtually gone. Was virtually gone. None of them were left but Eddie and myself. And I made an appeal to the two young men who were elected in the front. I said, gentlemen, please, I tried to get a united Anguilla. The old guard couldn't understand. Please, let's work together. But you know what? They continued to carry on being advised by the old guard, and they decided that they are going to continue to fight us. So tonight, I have a man here in Valley North. As a result, and here is a man who has been in your ears for many a year, from radio station to radio station, searching for the truth and educating you on the real issues confronting your lives. And you know what? A man who knows his prayers. A man who is influenced by a moral imperative, a moral nerve. A man who preaches the truth. A man who volunteered his service and said to me, Mr. Hughes, I have to strengthen the Anguilla United Movement. I want to be a candidate in the next election. What could I do? What could I do but thank God for Elkin Richardson? Ladies and gentlemen, that's your man. That's your man. For the next election, when you go to the polls, you don't have to look around. You know. That's why we start our election campaign early. In other countries, you hear 2-3 weeks are given for election campaign. Oh no, we are open, we are transparent, we are exposed. We can answer all the propaganda because on the other side, there are a lot of political scientists. They study political science, they are qualified in the art of manipulations and propaganda, and they can make the sun look black and the moon look red. But ladies and gentlemen, Elkin knows the plain, humble truth. He is your man for the upcoming general election. Ladies and gentlemen, we go to Valley South. In Valley South, there was also a miracle situation in that I wanted somebody who will represent the principles of the Anguilla United Movement for that constituency. And I went, first of all, to Josephine Gums, the daughter of a minister, because I had known that young lady from the time of her birth. And I saw her upbringing, and I felt that she is true evangelist, a great character. And when she heard that people in South Valley were looking for a candidate, Valley South, and they had found Evan Gums, immediately she said, let us support Evan Gums. We examined his credentials. Does he fit to be a member of the A.U.M? And we found out that he was. He was a praying man, a man who loved to pray. I said, ooh, we are moving on. A.U.M is moving on. And we got Evan. The next thing is, you hear, he's a poodle. But God's power is poodle's power. And just like David destroyed Goliath, that poodle power destroyed the invincible Goliath. And you know what? You know what? I love the second election, just like Obama. I said, if he wins the second election, the people of America and the people of the world will know that he was truly elected, not by chance, but by choice. And Evan is going to win this seat bigger than ever before. Bigger than ever before. He has confronted the type of problems that I have confronted. Civil servants conspiring to work against him from day to day, and he stood up like a giant, and he survived the fray. Civil servants fighting against him from day to day, but he stood his ground, and he did his own thing. He went out and did his own work, and I'm proud of him. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move along. As you know, when Heartbeat had its radio station down the valley, I identified a young, outstanding man who used to be on that station called Sheriff. I was interviewed by Sheriff on numerous occasions. And eventually, I discovered certain features in Sheriff. And I said, Sheriff, you know what? You will make an ideal candidate for Road North as an A.U.M man. Can't you run with us? And Sheriff was doing a university degree course. He said, listen, I don't want to mix it. I want to finish my course. And in the meantime, the politics got away. The politics got away, and we had to run with candidates who did not really qualify. But in the interest of politics and democracy and majority, numbers count. So we had to play the numbers game until we could do better. And look what's happened. Look what happened. My representative for Road North went on radio and television, and even the House of Assembly, to criticize his own government. And I was chastised by so many people. What this man has over Hubert, and you can't sack him. What does he? But you know what? I don't like to sack people. I don't like to see a man on the street. And I could take it because I was not there for me, so I could take it. But you know what? When you're taking bread deliberately out of people's mouth, I can't take that because I refuse to take bread out of your mouth. When I should have, I didn't. I refuse to take bread out of your mouth. At a time when the tourism industry is down because of dry season, and the only thing bringing bread to the taxi drivers and the boat owners and crew and the restaurant people in Blowing Point was what? Dolphins fantasy. And when a group of Americans and other Europeans, white people I must say, let's call it how it is, came to the Executive Council to fight for the Dolphins. And you can tell me, I made a great appeal to Mr. Baird. Please, Mr. Baird, fight with me for the people. And he would vote for them and vote with a bad Buccaneer governor to close down the Dolphins pool. And I said to them, that this is a conspiracy, and if the Dolphinarians take you to court, I will go on the side of the Dolphinarians. That same night I was leaving for London, I went on Hammer Station and I made a statement, and then by Iwande, and I made a statement that the governor and Eddie Beard had closed down the Dolphinarians by vote, but it will not close as long as I'm living. And you know what? It went to court. And the government lost the case, where the government didn't have to pay. The people had to pay. The government lost the case. People had to pay. And I heard a lawyer from somewhere about in the east was supposed to be representing the Dolphinarians and was going to appeal. But you will understand much about that in the next few weeks and months. Anyhow, I just could not take a member of my government taking bread out of so many people's mouths. And I had to do the last thing, was to dismiss him. To dismiss him, I took Mr. Jerome Roberts and made him a minister. And I took this great guy who I wanted for so long and made him my advisor in the Ministry of Finance. This is all providence, because this guy is now my right hand in that ministry. This is my right hand. Right now, he's working on 2 proposals to build an airport in Anguilla for the government of Anguilla. A Walbeck proposal for expansion of Walbeck Airport and a Birmingham proposal for a new airport. Because as he said tonight, for Anguilla to be sustained as an economic unit, you must have the infrastructure right. This country cannot be advanced without an airport. And nobody will stand in my way like the British stood in my way in 1999, but from 1996 to 1999, and prevented the French from building an airport for us. It will never happen again. Everybody knows now we need an airport. Anguilla has to feed its growing population. I was frightened some time ago when I went to a graduation ceremony and saw and heard how many wonderful students were coming out of that high school up there. And we have to find a living for them. We have to find opportunities for them to earn a living. And the only way we can do that is to keep the economy vibrant. And the infrastructure must be right. As my advisor said here tonight, Mr. Patrick Hanley. Mr. Patrick Hanley, the name Sheriff is like a lightning flame through the Road North constituency. And I always promised, and I will make sure the old guard disappeared. So I sent home some. I can take the last one with me when I'm going. Ladies and gentlemen, I ain't going nowhere, you know. I am putting those 7 guys there. Those 7 great guys there. Vibrant, young. People say they wanted youth, and we've got it. The people say they want an educated bunch, they have it. We have a lawyer in the West And you heard her. You heard her on Saturday. And we have a doctor in the East. And in the center, you have a lot of young, strong, educated men. They're all educated. What can you say about the Anguilla United Movement? What can you say? I ask the front one question. What are you campaigning for? What are you campaigning for? You mean you put Anguilla in that dilemma where the British government tried to bring more taxes on us, and you would still go on a platform as a defeated party, go on a platform and support the governor to bring down a government who came to save? Look at the struggles. Look at the struggles. We fought the British off when they say sack 300 civil servants. We fought the British off when they say put your public workers on part-time work. We fought them off when they say tax, 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 tax. We fought them off. The governor said boastfully that he will never leave Anguilla while Hubert Hughes was chief minister. He announced that on more than one occasion he will never leave. But let me tell you, he was promised a job at Cap Juluca, and our great accountant, Kevin Carty, who was begged to come there to work because of his qualifications, was dismissed to make room for Alistair Harrison. And a few months after he left, he was back at Cap Juluca waiting for his job. And we sent him a clear message: your work permit will not be renewed. Go back to Britain. Go back to Britain. Ladies and gentlemen, the fight was not a small fight. But you know what? My crew stood behind me in that fight. My soldiers stood behind me with their guns cocked. And we won that battle. Alistair Harrison is back in the cold in London. We are here still. And God will ensure we are here for a long time. Forward ever, backward never. Why is anybody opposing a government that fought so many battles 14 days after being elected? We had to borrow $10 million to pay civil servants because they were borrowing money every month. For the last 5 years, they never balanced the budget. 5 deficit in 5 years. That's what the records show. While everybody around the world was reducing costs, they were increasing salaries and making laws to go home with big gratuities and pensions. And even though some of them said they were retired and draw the retirement lump sum and the monthly pension, they are still in politics. But what? But what? How long can you fool us? Well, let me tell you. When the Anguilla United Movement form the next government, we will dig the graves for those who fought against us. Thank you. Good night.
We're ready.